So you got that letter, the one that says no. It's just so frustrating, right? All your plans, seeing family, that big conference, or just, exploring Canada suddenly hit a wall. And it leaves you with this one single burning question. Yeah, what did I do wrong? That's the first thing on everyone's mind. And look, it's a totally fair question, especially when the letter they send you is, well, it's super vague. The thing is, the real answer, it's almost never simple, and you're definitely not going to find it in that piece of paper. And that right there, that's the heart of the whole problem. That refusal letter you're holding, it's basically a template, a generic checklist from IRCC, Canada's immigration department. They just tick a box, send it out, and it tells you absolutely nothing useful. It doesn't give you the real feedback you need to actually fix what went wrong.
Okay, so let's get into it. First things first, we gotta understand what this no actually means. And, just as important, what it doesn't mean. Because believe it or not all bad news from them is the same. And knowing the difference, well, it's a really big deal.
All right, check this out. It's so important to know the difference between a refusal and a return. A return, that's the one on the right, is actually not so bad. It just means they sent your paperwork back without even processing it. Maybe you missed a signature or didn't pay the right fee. Easy peasy, you can fix it and send it right back in. But a refusal on the left, whoa, that's a whole different story. That's way more serious. It means an officer actually looked at your file, decided no, and now it's a permanent mark on your immigration record. You can't just fix a typo and resubmit. Nope, you've got to completely rethink your strategy. So if we're going to build that new, smarter strategy, we have to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on. An officer's decision isn't just a random guess. It's all based on one very, very specific piece of Canadian immigration law. And this is it, Section 179B. This right here is the number one reason, the absolute heart of most visitor visa refusals. All it means is that the officer isn't convinced you're going to leave Canada when your visit is over. That's it. Every single document you send in, every piece of proof, is being measured against that one single question. Will this person go home? Now, to make things even more complicated, there's this tool IRCC uses called Chinook. Think of it like a high-speed sorting machine for applications. It helps officers blast through massive piles of paperwork super fast. But here's the catch. Because it's all about speed and volume, sometimes the little details, the subtle, important parts of your story can get completely missed. And that means your application has to be absolutely crystal clear and simple to understand. There's just no room for confusion. So how do we get to the bottom of this? How do you find the real reason you were refused? Well, we have to become detectives and look for the common red flags, the things that make an officer worry about that Section 179B rule. Let's break down the two absolute biggest ones. First on the list, family ties. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't having family in Canada a good thing? And, well, yes and no. It's all about balance. The officer is literally putting your ties to Canada on one side of a scale and your ties to your home country on the other. They need to see which side is heavier. And this slide lays it out perfectly. So for example, let's say you have a lot of close family already living in Canada, but back home, you're single, you're a freelancer, you don't own any property. To an officer, that looks like a big red flag. It looks like you have very little to go back to. So what's the fix? You've got to hit them with concrete, undeniable proof of why you have to go home. We're talking property deeds, business ownership documents, proof that you're the main caregiver for your elderly parents, things they can't argue with. Okay, red flag number 2 is all about your finances. And listen up, because this is super important. It's not about how much money you have in the bank. It's about the story your bank account tells. It's about where that money came from. The classic mistake here is what's called a lump sum deposit. When a huge chunk of cash, say $10,000, magically appears in your bank account right before you apply. To an officer that screams borrowed money, they're going to think you just got it to pad your application. The way to fix this is to show them the history. Give them 4 to 6 months of bank statements. Show them you have a steady job, that you've been saving up over time. And hey, if that money really was a gift from your parents or something, that's fine. Just include a proper signed gift deed that explains exactly where it came from. You know that old saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? Well, that's exactly what just hitting resubmit with the same old documents is. It's just a fast track to getting another refusal. If you want a different result, you need a totally different approach, a much smarter, more forensic one. So let's talk about that approach. This is your 5-step recovery plan. We're done with guessing games. This is about finding out for sure what went wrong, and then building a brand new, stronger case from scratch. All right, here we go. Step 1. Just stop. Take a breath. Do not reapply right away out of frustration. Step 2, and I can't stress this enough, this is the most important part. Order your GCMS notes. Think of this as the secret file, the government's internal notes on your case. Once you have that treasure map, then you move to step 3. You do a gap analysis to see where your application was weak. Step 4, you build a new, strategic resubmission that directly answers the officer's hidden concerns. And finally, step 5, you can consider a judicial review, which is a legal route, but only if you find a clear mistake in their decision. And this is why those GCMS notes are an absolute game changer. Look at this. Your templated refusal letter might just have a checkmark next to finances. So vague, right? But the officer's actual note says, applicant's salary of $500 a month does not align with a $10,000 vacation plan. Boom, there it is, the light bulb moment. The problem wasn't the amount of money in the bank, it was the logic. It just didn't add up. Now you know exactly what you need to fix. No more guessing.
Okay, so as we get into fixing this, it's also really important to understand the stakes. A visa refusal isn't just a small bump in the road. It has real, lasting consequences. But you also have rights and options.
And let's start with a very, very serious warning. Whatever you do, do not try to fix your application by using fake documents. I'm talking about a photoshopped bank statement or a fake letter from an employer. Don't even think about it. If they catch you for what's called misrepresentation, you'll be banned from Canada for 5 years. Straight up. It is absolutely not worth the risk.
It's also really important to be realistic about how long all of this takes. Just getting those GCMS notes can take 30 to 60 days, so up to 2 months. And then you still got the normal processing time for your new application on top of that. So, yeah, this is not an overnight fix. It's a process that's going to take some patience and a solid game plan. And finally, let's just run through some quick-fire need-to-know realities. First, there's no formal appeal process for a visitor visa. You can't just argue the decision. Second, yes, you can reapply immediately, but you absolutely shouldn't. Wait for those notes. Third, that application fee you paid, it's gone. They don't do refunds. And last, and this is a big one, you now have to declare this Canadian refusal on any future visa applications to other major countries, the US, the UK, Australia. It follows you around. So here's what it all comes down to. Your first application was probably a guess, right? You put in what you thought they wanted to see. But now, armed with the real reasons, with the officer's own words from those GCMS notes, your second application doesn't have to be a guess at all. It can be a targeted, evidence-based, strategic response. So the real question is, what will your second application be?